Hello and welcome to the William Hill Scottish Cup highlight show. Coming up, we've got all the action from the second round of the competition. But where would we start but right here at Links Park as Montrose take on the University of Stirling, who are hoping to progress to the second round of the competition for the very first time in their history. Gordon Duncan has all the action.
Montrose last failed to score in a Scottish Cup home match in 2001, and the fans inside Links Park were hopeful of a few goals for the home side. Lewis Bonner had University of Stirling's first chance of the game after a ball over the top was headed into his path by Montrose defender Campbell. However, Bonner couldn't adjust himself to get a threatening shot away. It didn't take long for Montrose to take the lead. A ball over the top was flicked on by Chris Templeman, and Craig Johnson latched onto the header and smashed it past the helpless Walker in goal. The goal had given Montrose confidence, and Conor McLaughlin was next to try his luck as a shot from outside the box smashed off the foot of the post. Montrose had been causing all sorts of problems for University of Stirling in the air, and it was a simple corner that gave them their second. Craig Johnston found himself free at the near post, and his header managed to find its way in to give Montrose a 2-0 lead after 20 minutes. The majority of the 500 plus crowd inside Links Park would have been expecting Montrose to run away with the tie, especially as they continued to push forward. However, with 10 minutes of the first half remaining, Stirling Uni got themselves back into the game. Player-manager Chris Geddes picked the ball up deep in the Montrose half and slid David O'Brien in down the left-hand side of the box. O'Brien made no mistake as he put the ball back across goal and past Alan Fleming. Just before the break, Montrose looked to have restored their 2-goal lead. However, Chris Templeman's effort was ruled out for offside by the near-side assistant referee. 10 minutes into the second half and Montrose restored their 2-goal lead. After a foul on the edge of the box, the ball was rolled to Ian Campbell from the resulting free kick, and his deflected low drive from 20 yards gave Kevin Walker no chance. 2 minutes later and Craig Johnson was still hunting for his third. Another long ball was flicked on by Templeman, but the effort went past the post. Gary Fraser replaced Chris Templeman midway through the second half, and he must have been wondering how Kevin Walker kept his point-blank header out after a good ball in by Callaghan. He wasn't to be stopped a second time though, and just 2 minutes later it was Craig Johnson's cross from the opposite side this time, and Gary Fraser duly tucked the ball home to make it 4-1. University of Stirling's main threat had been player-manager Geddes, and as they tried to get something from the game, his long-range free kick forced Alan Fleming into a low save. Man of the match Craig Johnson then had the chance to seal his hat-trick as the game drew to a close. Kevin Walker charged out his goal and failed to deal with the ball, but Johnson couldn't find the required finish. Full-time, Montrose 4, University of Stirling 1.
I think we started the game really well. We treated them with the most respect we could. We had them watched, so we knew what they were capable of. So I thought we started the game really, really well. Get our 2 goals, and then credit to them to score a good goal. And it knocks us flat a little bit for 30 minutes of the game. They're the middle 30 minutes, where it's 2-1, and it could maybe go either way. But credit to the boys. Thought second half they got about it really professional and scored a couple of good goals.
Craig Johnson got 2 goals today. First one was a bit special.
Yes, it's his first goals for the club, so really happy, pleased for him. He works tirelessly up there, and he's just needed a wee break in front of goal. His first goal is a super goal, and he could probably maybe go into nick a hat-trick towards the end, but we're happy with the 2 for him.
I think first 25-30 minutes, Montrose came out, they got their 2 goals. Sloppy second one from our point of view. First one was a nice finish from the striker. And then after we dealt with Templeman a bit better, we knew what he was going to do, but it's easy to think about, but it's harder to actually do it. And then we obviously scored a really good goal ourselves, 2-1 at half time, and we're well in the game. And then the first 10 minutes of the second half, I'll be honest, there wasn't much in it. And then obviously from our perspective, a really sloppy goal through one of our guys has broke off the wall and it's deflected into the corner, and then after the game we've tried to push and Montrose have scored a nice 4th. So overall they deserve to win, but I'm not sure it was a 4-1, but we take a lot of positives, but I think we could have done a lot better.
Now the second round seen 5 non-league sides drawn against League 2 opposition. We'll start with Cove Park. They travel north to Peterhead.
Cove Park were massive underdogs for their trip to Balmoor, and it was clear that they were in for a long afternoon after just 14 minutes. Cove struggled to deal with Stevenson's free kick, and Jamie Brown forced the ball home. It was 2-0 after 22 minutes. Some good work by Peterhead saw Smith play a diagonal ball for Rory McAllister. His low cross was put away by the sliding Jack Leach. McAllister was to cause Cove more problems and scored the first of his 5 goals with 10 minutes of the first half remaining. And McAllister would have his hat-trick before half-time, first scoring after Cove keeper David Tate couldn't fully deal with a cross, then scoring a penalty deep into first half stoppage time. A Gary Curry own goal was then followed by another McAllister penalty. Peterhead weren't finished there though, and Scott Brown would make it 8 with just over 10 minutes to go. Rory McAllister got his 5th and Peterhead's 9th in added time after he latched on to a Jamie Stevenson pass. It finished Peterhead 9, Cove Park 0. On paper, this game looked cut and dried. Stirling Albion hadn't lost a second round game since 2004, and they'd only lost 1 of their last 8 home ties. They'd also kept a clean sheet in 6 out of 8 Scottish Cup games. And they must have thought it was to be their day as captain Darren Smith opened the scoring after just 6 minutes with his 12th goal of the season. Lothian Thistle, Hutchison, Vale, who've only played in the second round once previously, equalised just 4 minutes later. Willis Hare finding the back of the net from inside the box after a rebound off the bar. Sean Ring then made it 2-1 after 15 minutes with a good header from Kevin Brown's free kick. It was Lothian Thistle, Hutchison, Vale that came out the stronger side in the second half. Ring made it 3-1 from a header after Louis Swanson's corner. Swanson would go on to score the 4th from the penalty spot after 66 minutes. Just 2 minutes later, the Edinburgh side were in dreamland as Jamie Devlin scored after a challenge with the goalkeeper to make it 5-1. Stirling Albion would go on to give Vale a bit of a fright with 2 further goals, but it wouldn't be enough to stop their progress to the third round for only the second time. These two sides met at this stage of the Cup last year when East Kilbride ran out 1-0 winners. It must have felt like a case of déjà vu for both teams. This time a late winter goal sealed a 1-0 win for Kilby, getting in the end of a McNeil cross after Cowdenbeath lost the ball at the edge of their own box. Keith haven't won at home in the Scottish Cup since 1996 and their wait for that elusive win will continue for another season at least. After a goalless first half, it took just 2 minutes of the second half for Clyde to break the deadlock. Max Wright the provider, as Osadollar finished with a back heel. If Keith fancied their chances of getting something from the game, their hopes were to be dashed in a crazy 2-minute period. First, Michael Walton was shown a straight red for his part in the aftermath of Donald Fraser's bad challenge. From the resulting free kick, Darren Ramsey found Max Wright, who tucked the ball in from 6 yards. The pattern of turning provider to goalscorer continued 7 minutes later when Darren Ramsey headed in from a David Goodwillie cross, rounding off a comfortable afternoon for Clyde in Murrayshire. It was always going to be a big ask for Edusport Academy in their first season in the Scottish Cup proper to get something from an Elgin City side that are undefeated in their last 10 Scottish Cup second round games. And it was Brian Cameron who got Elgin off to a quick start by putting away a corner after just 7 minutes, Elgin's 1000th goal since being granted league status. After a foul on McLeish in the Edusport Academy box, Brian Cameron had the chance to get his and Elgin City's second of the game. With 20 minutes to go, Belkacem kept Edusport Academy in the game as he saved low to his right. Elgin would get their second on 88 minutes as they capitalised from another set piece, this time Darryl McCarty heading in. He would be forgiven for thinking the tie was over by this point, but Edusport Academy went straight up the other end and Louis Babel pulled one back for the Lowland League side as he scored from the rebound. There was to be one more goal in stoppage time, but it wouldn't be the equaliser Edusport were looking for. Callum Ferguson found Alistair Sutherland and the former Inverness Cally Thistle man applied a good finish to send Elgin City into the third round.
Reigning Highland League champions Buckie Thistle have knocked out Lowland League opposition the last 2 seasons in a row. Of course, BSC Glasgow were hoping to buck that trend as they travel to Victoria Park in the first of our Highland versus Lowland ties.
Buckie's last Scottish Cup game at Victoria Park produced 8 goals as they went down 5-3 to Dunfermline last season. There would be another 8 goals this time, but it was Buckie Thistle that came out on top against their Lowland League opposition. The Jags found themselves 4-0 up at half-time. Sean Carroll opened the scoring from the penalty spot before John McLeod continued his rich vein of goal-scoring form in the Scottish Cup by getting his first of the game after 19 minutes. Stephen Ross made it 3-0 as he scored a great free kick into the top corner. Jay Chain set up John McLeod for his second as he broke through the BSC backline. Stevie Murray pulled one back for BSC Glasgow just after the hour mark with a free kick into the top corner, and Martin Grain got BSC's second not long after. That was it for the comeback though, as Ross McMillan picked up 2 late yellows for the Glasgow side, and with the man advantage, Buckie scored 2 stoppage time goals. Chris Angus got the 5th before John McLeod sealed his hat-trick from inside the box. The Clach support were in good spirits on their trip to Edinburgh, however any hopes of going back up the road to Inverness with a win soon evaporated after Blair Atkinson opened the scoring for Spartans with a low drive from outside the box. It was soon 2-0 as Ross Allam laid the ball off to David Greenhill, who volleyed home. Greenhill then made it 3-0 at the second time of asking to give Spartans a comfortable half-time lead. Play was temporarily suspended early in the second half as Douglas McLennan suffered a bad head knock following some brave goalkeeping. After being taken to hospital, play was restarted. Spartans made it 4 following a great strike from Jamie Dishington in the 72nd minute. Dishington made it 5 at the very end of the game from a corner to send Clach, including goalkeeper Douglas McLennan, back up the A9 and send Spartans into the third round. This was the first ever meeting between these sides in the Scottish Cup. The Strollers knew they would have to improve on their second round form, having lost all 10 of their previous ties at this stage of the competition. Brora Rangers beat Girvan 5-0 in the previous round, and they repeated that score in this match. Scott Graham scored the solitary goal of the first half with a header to the far post following an Ali MacDonald cross. Ali MacDonald then got himself in the score sheet with just 4 minutes into the second half with an effort from outside the box into the bottom corner. MacDonald again had a hand in the third, his corner met by the head of Stephen Mackay. Scott Graham made it 4 with his second of the game from a great free kick that left Burnside in the Strollers' goal motionless. Paul Brindle added a 5th in stoppage time to cement the Highlanders' place in the third round for the third time in 5 years. Edinburgh Uni have never kept a clean sheet in the Scottish Cup, and it took Fraserburgh just 8 minutes to keep that record going. Willie West flicked on a cross from the right to Jamie Beagrie, who in turn laid it back off to West to slot past Mark Tate in goal. It was 2-0 just before half-time as a long free kick from their own half found West. Tate did well to deny him once, but the rebound was tucked away. Willie West had the chance to seal his hat-trick from 12 yards, but he won't want to watch this one again as he put his penalty wide of the post. It finished Edinburgh University 0, Fraserburgh 2. Some neat play by Formartine in and around the box by Scott Barber, Graham Roger and Liam Burnett allowed Scott Ferry to open the scoring. Scott Barber made it 2-0 just a minute later after McPhee picked up a long ball and calmly rolled in Barber, who made no mistake. Former Elgin captain Archie McPhee showed great skill to go past 3 players before his low effort trundled towards goal. Scott Barber again applied the finish to make it 3 on 18 minutes. The action wasn't finished there. Kieran Lawrence won the ball in midfield and followed it up with a strong challenge to win the 50-50. He then had the vision to roll McPhee in to get his second goal in this year's Scottish Cup. Jamie McCormick's and East Stirling's frustrations were epitomised by McCormick's red card at the end for a bad challenge. It finished Formartine United 4, East Stirlingshire 0.
There were still 2 teams flying the flags for the juniors this time around. Glenafton were taking on Deveronvale, while Banks O'Dea were trying to overcome Selkirk to reach the third round for the very first time in their history. Both teams were looking to make history by making the third round for the first time.
Jamie Watt opened the scoring from close range after 68 minutes. Alan White made it 2-0 not long after, following Michael Phillipson's good work to tee up White for a close range finish. It would be the North Super League junior team that would run out comfortable winners and seal a third round spot. Junior Cup winners Glenafton Athletic travelled north knowing they could be in for a tough afternoon against a Deveronvale side that hadn't lost any of their past 7 Scottish Cup home games. However, it was to be the junior side that would progress, but they would leave it very late to get their 2 goals. A deep free kick from their own half was knocked down by McCann, and super sub Joe Andrew fired it across goal and into the bottom corner to make it 1-0. The sub made it 2-0 in stoppage time after some great work by fellow sub Darren McGill, picking up the ball in his own half and showing tenacity to get his cross in. Deveronvale failed to clear their lines, and Joe Andrew took full advantage to send the noisy Glenafton fans home happy.
Rounding up the last of the second round action, we start in Nairn, where Cove Rangers were hoping for a repeat of last month's 8-0 win against Nairn County.
It's been an emotional week for Nairn following the funeral of their 28-year-old player Callum Riddle on Tuesday. Cove, who had won 8-0 in the league a few weeks ago at Nairn, opened the scoring after 17 minutes as Mitch Megginson turned in a corner. With the score 1-0 to the visitors at half-time, Nairn would have been frustrated to concede after just 32 seconds of the second half. Megginson turned provider as his cross was met by the head of Jamie Masson, and his looping header back across goal found the net. Nairn weren't about to give up though, and Jordan McRae pulled them back into the tie with his second goal in as many Scottish Cup games. Gary Kerr played McRae in before he cut inside to score at the near post. It wouldn't be enough though, as Cove held on to their 2-1 lead and progressed to the third round. Annan Athletic hadn't lost in the second round since 2012, but that run came to an end at Shieldfield Park as Pat Scullion scored the only goal of the game after 70 minutes, following a pass from Darren Lavery. Edinburgh City entertained Stenhousemuir at Ainslie Park on Friday night. The teams last met just 2 weeks ago when the Warriors ran out 3-0 winners over the Edinburgh side. There weren't to be as many goals this time. After a goalless first half, Jamie Longworth opened the scoring for Stenhousemuir after 49 minutes. And it was Stenhousemuir that looked more likely to score again in the game. However, there weren't to be any more goals, and to end a bad night for Edinburgh City, Craig Thompson was sent off in stoppage time for a second yellow. 61 goals were scored over the second round weekend, and for the first time since 2006 there aren't any second round replays. Here is your draw for the third round of the Scottish Cup. There are a number of standout ties, including Bankside at home to Ayr United, St Mirren away to Lothian Thistle, Hutchison, Vale, and Glenafton Athletic are rewarded for their away win at Deveronvale with a visit to Livingston. Ties will be played the weekend of Saturday, 18th of November.
Congratulations to all of the teams who made it through to the third round of the William Hill Scottish Cup. That wraps up our coverage for this round. We will be back, of course, for more coverage right across our social media channels on Facebook, on Twitter and on YouTube. On Sunday the 19th of November you can see the highlights from the third round. But for now, good luck to everyone involved and we'll see you next time.